Hello students. Today we start with our continuing topic for class 10, Commercial Application Chapter 2, Marketing Mix. In our last lecture, my dear boys, we have seen that what product life cycle was and what were the different 5 stages. We have seen the 5 stages which included introduction, growth, maturity, decline and abandonment stages in detail with graph, which you can see at the back also we had studied. Now here today we will continue with one of the topics, says price and the pricing strategies. First of all, we should understand what price means. Term price denotes the money value of the product or a service. It is the amount of money a seller is asking for the product. Remember the price. What is the amount the seller is asking? That amount is called the price. And the amount the seller is asking and is offering for sale, which a buyer is willing to pay. There has to be the buyer who is willing to pay. And in the book it says, according to Clark, the price of an article or service is its market value expressed in terms of money. It reflects the worth of the product or service and the amount of money for which it can be exchanged. Here we are talking about the money through which the product or service can be exchanged. In practice, person buys certain services or facilities along with the product, and the price which he pays represents the amount of money paid for a product and the services accompanying it. Therefore, if we study, price may be defined as the amount of money which is required to acquire the specific service or product. In exchange of a product, we get some services which are accompanying the product. Pricing is a process of translating the value of the product or service in terms of money. Remember, whenever we are talking about in terms of it is terms of money, we are talking about the price, money. It not only simply the determination of the basic price. We get confused and we say this is the basic price, but my dear students, the basic price, but there is some terms and conditions of the sale. For example, the transportation cost, mode of payment, discounts and allowances, all these things are calculated and written there. The quality of the product and services supplied, along with it, the channel of distribution and the promotional effort depend greatly upon the price. Price is fundamental to all marketing efforts. It is regulatory mechanism by means of which the seller and the buyer come to a mutually satisfactory understanding. Price determines largely the sales volume and the profit margin. The firm, we all understand, the firm cannot succeed if the price are too high or too low. To the consumers, price determines its purchasing power and standard of living. Consumers take their buying decisions and allocate their income with the help of the prices of alternative goods and services. Without pricing, there can be no marketing, as a sale takes place only when the buyer and seller agree on a price. Price regulates production, distribution and consumption in the economy. Prices of goods and services determine largely The price is paid of various factors of production in the form of wages, interest, rent and profit. Price mechanism also influence the allocation of resources and the level of employment in the country. Pricing is also a difficult function, my dear students. You must understand. It is a difficult function of marketing as it involves the consideration of several intangible and interrelated factors. Pricing depends not only upon the market forces of demand and supply, but are also regulated by management and the government. Pragmatic prices decisions require up-to-date knowledge of trends in sales and demand. A large number of internal factors like cost of product, quality and service, promotion and distribution strategies, and some external factors like demand competition, buying motives, risk and government control influence price determination. We shall now study the factors which are having the influence on the price. While determining the price, there are certain factors. Very first factor, though there are 7-8 factors, but 5 factors are enough. Though very first factor is talking about the cost. Very important factor is cost. Essentially, retail prices are cost of production and distribution plus the profit margin. Cost means the cost of production and distribution plus profit margin is also there in the cost. You have to add the profit. No business can survive for long without covering its cost. Sometimes people are getting confused. What is the cost? Cost has got the plus profit margin. The selling price must yield a fair return on the owner's capital and a compensation for the risk assumed. Demand. Number 2 point says about the demand. The nature and size of demand in relation to the supply of an article is another factor. It may be necessary to sell below cost under conditions of exceptionally low demand. Generally, you will not find anybody selling below the cost. But if the price is very low, the demand is very low, then that time instead of total loss, less price or below cost, you are bound to sell. Price elasticity of demand is also important in pricing. Third point says about the competition. Price charged by competitors often act as a guide of pricing decision. Yes, the firms have to see what prices are charged by their competitors. A businessman tends to avoid selling below the market price. Nobody will sell, as it may lead to price war. Yes, selling above the competitive price is very difficult. Prices of substitutes are more important in this respect. Customary and convenient price of a product is also important. Point number 4 says factor quality and service. An article may be sold at a price much above the cost. Yes, it can be sold if the customer considered that article is exceptional quality or value services rendered on sale. On the other hand, the article may not even sell at a low price if the quality or service is considered to be very poor. Fifth point says buying motive. Customer may pay a high price to satisfy his vanity. Vanity means his demand, his choice, his will. This happens when the article is purchased for status or prestige. For example, in an art gallery, you go and purchase an art for a lakh of rupees or a crore of rupees because for you, the buying habit, it is for a status or a prestige. Price must be consistent with the desired public image of the product. Sixth point says about the promotional strategies. Firms using intensive techniques of sales promotion may price their products above the market price. Similarly, policies relating to channels of distribution, after sales services, etc., influence prices. Point number 7 says risk. Some seasonal goods and fashion articles are sold at prices out of line with cost to cover unusual risk undertaken by the seller. Goods which are sold on liberal terms of credit may also be high priced to cover loss of interest and risk of bad debts. Point number 8 says government control. Price of certain products are regulated by the government. In India, maximum prices of edible oils, automobiles, sugar, cement, etc. are fixed by the government. Public policy therefore influences price. Now we talk about the pricing strategies. Some of the pricing strategies, number 1 says, which we have just taken the name in the previous lecture, says about the first point, skim the middle pricing. In this I have told you a very high price is set up in the initial stage. When we discussed the introduction stage, I said very high price in the introduction stage, initial stage. The cream of demand may be skimmed and the investment made by the product is quickly released. That means you charge higher price and cover your investment. The aim here is to sell to classes. When the price is very high of any new product, the first strategy, skimming the milk, means the high price, that only classes will come. And you will not care how much they pay for a noble product. They will pay. These class people, high class people we are discussing, don't care how much they pay. Later on I am saying, initially to high price, later on the price will be reduced to tap other segments of the market. This strategy is appropriate in cases of highly distinctive products. Highly distinctive product which is aggressively promoted in the early stages of its life cycle. Skimming prices is effective for new and distinctive products due to following reasons. First point says, in the early stage, the product is distinctive and imitations have not taken effect. Has not taken effect because that product was new. Nobody knew about it. Therefore, prices is less likely to affect the sales volume. The demand is inelastic. Number 2 says, high price in the initial stage will provide funds for expansion into a big volume segment of the market. Third point says, skimming pricing takes the cream of the market before attempting to penetrate. As you have seen, the milk on the top, the cream is there. So you take the cream first and then you enter the milk. And then it says here, market the same way, you will just take the cream, the class, and then you will enter the masses. You can say here, before attempting to penetrate the more price sensitive sections of the market, which I just said, masses. The strategies can be used to feel out the market. It is easier to start out with a high initial price and reduce it later than to set a low price initially and then raise the price to cover unforeseen costs. Very, very simple. And the fifth point says, by setting initial price at a high level, the manufacturer can restrict demand to the level which he can meet. Skimming the cream strategy is likely to attract competitors, and as new firms enter to reap good fruits, price may have to be lowered. This is skimming the milk. Initial high prices, and then when we have sold to the classes, then slowly we can tap down or bring down the price so that we can tap the other segments of the market. Number 2 says penetrating pricing. This strategy involves setting a low price. See the difference. Low price in the initial stage. So want to make, why are they putting the price low? To make the brand quickly popular and to maximize the maximum market share. See, it is all on the motive. Here the motive is to make the brand quickly popular and to maximize the market share. The manufacturer seeks to sell to the masses. In the previous skimming the milk, it was selling to the classes. But here the manufacturer seeks to sell to the masses. Many firms use this strategy while launching fast moving consumer product, FMCG product. The policy results in a high sales volume. High sales volume is there. During this stage, some retailers use this strategy by operating on principle of low markup and higher volume. Penetrating pricing is an aggressive pricing strategy, and it may be used to restrict the entry of new firms. That means it may be a strategy to stop the new firms to enter in the industry, because those firms, the firm which is using this strategy, price is very, very low, and the other firms cannot compete with them at a low price, and thus what happen is that they cannot enter in the market. Penetrating pricing is desirable under the following condition. First one says demand for the product is highly elastic. Demand for, that is the quantity sold, is highly sensitive to price. Number 2 says substantial economies in unit cost can be achieved by operating at high volume of production and sales. There is a strong potential competition in the market. Number 4 says high income market is inadequate. That is, only very few consumers are willing to pay a high price. Number 5 says the public is likely to accept a new product as a part of their daily life because the price is very, very low. Nirma detergent powder, if you remember, penetrated into the market, mass market, by providing value of money and displaced the higher price surf in India. Initially, surf was there, but Nirma came with the penetrating strategy policy and displaced surf. People had forgotten about surf. Then it came back, that is a different story. But here, initially, it was displaced. Sometimes the product can be rescued from a premature death by adopting penetrating pricing after a cream of the market has been skimmed. The choice between skimming and penetrating will depend largely on the ease and speed with which competitors can bring out substitute product. Some consumers may think that the low price product is of poor quality. In case of unestimated, it may be difficult to raise price later on to cover the unforeseen cost. Third point says about the cost plus pricing. Cost plus pricing. Very interesting thing is that the basic idea of this approach is selling price of the product must cover its full cost. Selling price covered and yield a reasonable margin of profit. Cost plus pricing. The margin may be a fixed amount per unit or a percentage of cost. This margin is called the markup, and therefore cost plus price is known as markup pricing. Markup, M-A-R-K-U-P, markup pricing. That means selling price is equal to, if you say total cost per unit plus desired profit per unit. The actual formula used for cost plus pricing may vary widely. This may widely vary between industries and even between firms within an industry. The variation arises due to differences in composition of cost and different accounting practices or methods of the cost determination. The term total unit cost may be defined in different ways. Actual, expected, and standard cost are the usual concept of cost. Actual cost implies historical cost or current cost. It reflects the cost for the latest available period at the current rate of output. Expected cost is a forecast or estimated cost calculated on the basis of the expected rate of output, efficiency, and expected unit price. Standard cost is the cost that should be at some normal rate of output and at the standard level of efficiency. In actual practice, cost is determined on the basis of estimates and cost experience. Actual cost appears to be the most relevant concept, as expected and standard cost are contingents. The profit margin or markup that is added to the cost differs from firms to firm. The amount of margin depends on the distinctiveness of the product, degree of competition, industry practice, and some vague notions of a reasonable profit. Rate of return on investment is a useful method of declining the markup, particularly for large, well-established firms. Under this approach, the firm first of all determines the target of return. Then the normal volume of production and its standard cost is determined. The amount of capital investment divided by the standard cost of normal output gives the figure of capital turnover. When multiplied by the target rate of interest, capital turnover provides the percentage markup. For example, if capital turnover is, we understand, 1.2 and the target rate of return is 15%, the markup standard cost, widely used technique, it is safe and it ensures full coverage of cost and helps in achieving the reasonable rate of capital employed. This method is logical and can be defended on moral ground. Remember, it discourages cutthroat competition. But there are some disadvantages. Given there are 8, but we will only consider 5. Cost plus pricing suffers. It is first 5 we are discussing. It is very often difficult to determine accurately the cost per unit due to common overheads and joint products. The method involves arbitrary allocation of cost in such cases. So that means very difficult to determine the accurate cost per unit. Number 2 says the method ignores the nature and level of demand. The resulting price may therefore be out of line with market conditions. Correct? The method ignores the nature and level of demand. Third one says it fails to reflect competition in the market. Fourth, the markup on the cost of product is not fixed but may change with the change in the demand. In practice, rule of thumb method are used to determine the markup. And the 5th point says the method makes the rigidity in pricing and may restrict the size of the firm below the optimum level. Number 4 says pricing is called the parity pricing. Parity, parity pricing. Under this, a business firm adjusts its own price policy to the general pricing structure in the industry. It involves charging according, it involves, I repeat, it involves charging according to what competitors are charging. Many companies in the industry follow the pricing level set by the market leaders. What the market is charging, according to that, the firms are charging. It is also known as going rate pricing or competition based pricing. What the competitors are charging, according to that, they are also charging. But they are appropriate strategy. Pricing policy is an appropriate strategy in following situation. Number one says, when it is very difficult to measure the cost, parity pricing may be logical. First step is a rational pricing strategy. Number two says, when price leadership is well established, charging according to what competitors are charging maybe not only maybe the only safe policy. Third is where competition is very severe and competitive products are homogeneous. When things are not sure, my dear students, we must adapt this policy as the policy is telling us. See what your competitors are charging and charge accordingly. It may be less troublesome. Fourth point says it may be less troublesome and less costly than an individualistic pricing strategy. So today we have studied about the pricing strategies which we will be continuing, and next time we will start with place or distribution channels. So thank you and have a nice day.